You know, there's been a lot of books written on real estate investing and how to become a real estate investor. So I'm going to take this episode, and in the first part of this episode, part 1, I'm going to talk about 3 books that influenced my life. And then in part 2, we're going to talk about 3 books that absolutely changed my life. So stick around through part 1 and part 2, and at the end, I'm going to give away something that I'm sure you'll appreciate. All right, we're ready to get started with part 1 of How to Become a Real Estate Investor, Books That Influenced Me. There have been an awful lot of books written about real estate investing and how to become a real estate investor. In this episode, I'm going to talk about 3 books that made an impression on me and 3 books that absolutely changed my life. But I want you to stay till the end because I have a free gift for you when we get there. There are several books that made an impression on me, but there are 3 that stand out. The Millionaire Next Door, written by William Danko and Thomas J. Stanley, definitely made an impression on me. What the book said to me was, it's not all going to be about the money. Because in the book, The Millionaire Next Door, they pointed out to me that if you made $55,000 a year, you were in the top 10% of the world. That's not a lot of money to me. It certainly wasn't even registering on my goals. My goals were way past that. The Millionaire Next Door deals in facts. How long does the average millionaire keep his car? What's the average price of the watch of the average millionaire next door? How long has he been married? How long did he live in his house? When we got to some financial facts about people and incomes, I was blown away. You know, if you make over $55,000 a year, you're in the top 10% of the world. I was making way more than $55,000 a year. So I had this conversation with my wife and I said, you know, honey, if things aren't happy-go-lucky around here, it's certainly not because we're not making enough money. Look what I just read. I just read that if you make $55,000 a year, you're in the top 10% of the world. So that book was important for that reason. It put everything in perspective for me as far as money and buying happiness. A second book that made an impression on me was Self-Made in America by John McCormick. This guy posed the question, why is it that immigrants can come to this country and don't have anything, hardly anything, not even the language, and become financially independent within a reasonably short period of time, when all of us Americans live right here in the middle of the nation, at the corner of prosperity and opportunity, and never find financial freedom for our entire lives? Why is that? John McCormick answers that question in the book Self-Made in America. From that book, I learned to think like an immigrant. I learned to pretend I was an immigrant because the immigrants had it right. What they had right was a lot of different things. For number 1, I realized after reading that book that the reason why I was not successful at the time was because I was not willing to sacrifice to near the level these immigrants were willing to sacrifice. They would do and sacrifice at a level that was so high that I still can't fathom doing it. But I was way down here when I read the book. I moved my willingness to sacrifice up to here. These immigrants are still way up here, but I had to move light years ahead to even get to where I could compete. The third book that made an impression on me was called The Richest Man in Babylon. It was a Christian book that said if you would just do the right thing and treat your people fair, that you would never want for business, that there would always be a line outside your door. Because of that book, The Richest Man in Babylon, I go to great lengths to make sure that everyone's happy. I go to extraordinary lengths. I'll bend over backwards to make sure that when people leave my office, that they don't have bad things to say, because that's exactly what has happened to me. I have a line of business outside my front doors, and it's because 20 years of bending over backwards to help make people happy, even when things didn't go right, weren't my fault, or I wasn't to be blamed, but I was blamed anyways. I bent over backwards to do my part and more. So before we go on to the next episode where I tell you about the 3 books that absolutely changed my life, let us know if there's a book that changed your life. Just let us know in the comments. We'll be greatly appreciative. Thanks for listening to part 1, and we'll get to part 2 in the next episode.